Welcome to the chapter 8 of the discussion, which is on motivation. In motivation, we are going to cover today the concept of motivation, theories of motivation grouped under different headings like need theories, task characteristics theories, goal setting theory, reinforcement theory, equity theory, expectancy theory, and we will come to understand the implication of motivation theories for performance and satisfaction. Now, what is motivation? Motivation is the willingness to exert high levels of effort towards organizational goals, conditioned by the effort's ability to satisfy some individual need. So, when need is actually an internal state which makes certain outcomes appear more attractive to us, and motivation is also connected with the concept for direction, level and persistence. These three terms are very important for understanding motivation. First is direction, second level and third is persistence. We will come to discuss each of these separately. When we are talking of direction, means motivation is always towards something, and it may arise from like the goal which is more attractive, the outcome which is more attractive, and we move towards something. The word generates from the word mover, which means to move, and these direction means like there are two or three choices and we are more attracted to one of these choices. Level means the number of times we have tried for certain things, number of times we have tried to reach a goal or to efforts we have taken to do something, that is levels. Persistence means the length of time that we have tried, the duration for which we have tried to carry forward our effort towards reaching a goal. So, there are three important terms connected to the concept of motivation. First, direction, second, level, third is persistence. If we try to see that, then where direction refers to an individual's choice when presented with a number of possible alternatives. Example, whether to exert effort towards product quality or towards product quantity. Level refers to the amount of effort a person puts forth. Example, a lot of effort or a little of effort. Persistence refers to the length of time a person sticks with a given action, that is to try to achieve a product quality and give up when it is found difficult to attain. So, whether you go on trying or you give up after a certain point of time denotes your persistence towards certain things. The determinants of motivation varies across cultures and also different regions, and the individual's values and attitudes are both important aspect of motivation, and they both have strong cultural foundations. Like when we are talking of these three things, directions, levels and persistence, as we discussed in the last slide, you can understand the outcomes which are more attractive to one person, or the number of times he is going to try for certain things, the length of time he is going to remain, he or she is going to just go on trying and leave thereafter, which denotes persistence, will depend on the personality pattern of the individual, the how important he or she perceives the goal to be, what is the values which makes that goal more attractive or less attractive to the person. And culture has also a very important role to play in defining these three characteristics of motivation. So, cultural differences and individual differences, differences in their values, differences in the personality pattern, perception, etc., play a role to define what motivates a person, like how a person gets motivated and what can be done to make that person remain motivated towards certain things. After this, we will try to discuss the theories of motivation. The theories of motivation can be divided into three broad categories. First is the reinforcement theories, which emphasize the means through which the process of controlling an individual's behavior by manipulating its consequences takes place. Content theories, which focus primarily on individual needs, the physiological or psychological deficiencies that we feel a compulsion to reduce or eliminate. And third group of theories are called process theories, which focus on the thought or cognitive processes that takes place within the minds of people and influence their behavior. So, if we can classify these three groups of theories, we can understand, like content theories deals with what motivates a person, process theories deals with how this process occurs, like the process of motivation, how it happens, what is the mechanism of how motivation takes place. And when you are talking of reinforcement, means how we can deal with the degrees of motivation, whether we can change it, whether we can increase it, sort of thing, depends on this reinforcement theories, like how we can control the outcome and the consequence of motivation, and as a result of which the levels of motivation are going to change. So, these are the three main groups of theories, and here we are going to discuss each one by one. First, we will start with the reinforcement theories. Reinforcement is the administration of a consequence as a result of a behavior. Managing reinforcement properly can change the direction, level and persistence of an individual's behavior. So, we can understand, like when motivation is directed towards something and as a result there is an outcome of that motivation. So, when we are reinforcing, we are trying to act on the consequence which occurs as a result of behavior, whether you get a positive consequence or you get a negative consequence, it can have a tremendous impact on the direction, level and the persistence with which you go on towards approach a certain objects and things, and the process with which you carry, the vigor with which you carry your work forward, which may lead to changes in different levels of motivation. And here we will discuss with the two main groups of theories under reinforcement theories, the operant conditioning theory and the classical conditioning theory. A point to note over here, reinforcement theory is counterpoint to the goal setting theory, where goal setting theory is a cognitive approach proposing that an individual's purposes directs his or her action, while reinforcement tells it is a behavioristic approach where reinforcement conditions the behavior of the individual, and it tells what controls behavior and reinforces any consequence that, when immediately following a response, increases the possibility that the behavior will be repeated. So, if a behavior is followed by a positive consequence, it is expected that the behavior will get repeated. If it is followed by a negative consequence, it is generally expected that the behavior will not be repeated again. We will discuss the two groups of reinforcement theories. First is the classical conditioning theory and the second is the operant conditioning theory. Classical conditioning is a form of learning through association that involves the manipulation of stimuli to influence behavior. This learning occurs through conditioned stimuli. A stimulus is something that incites action and draws forth the response. So, you will find like there are two terms over here, like first is the stimuli is manipulated to influence a behavior, and learning occurs through conditioned stimuli. What is done over here in the classical conditioning is, like if you go by the original experiment done by Pavlov, what happened? There is an unconditional stimulus and an unconditional response. Unconditional stimulus and the evokes an unconditional response in the sense which is a natural response of towards certain stimuli, like when there is a food meat in front of a dog, it will salivate. That is a natural response, unconditional response of the dog towards the unconditional stimulus, which is the meat over here. Now, what happens in classical conditioning? What is done? This unconditional stimulus is being paired with a conditioned stimulus, which is the sound of the bell. What happens initially? Sound of the bell, ringing of the bell is not a stimulus which generally naturally evokes the response of salivation of by the dog. But what happens when this conditioned stimulus is paired with unconditioned stimulus, then when it tells like whenever there is a food, there is a ringing of the bell, and then the dog also salivates to it. After a certain point of time, the dog will start salivating at the sound of the bell itself, because by that time there is a pairing done between the conditional stimulus and the unconditional stimulus, and the ringing of the bell or the sound of the bell is the signal that the food is arriving, and that makes the dog salivate. So, in that way there is a pairing between the conditional stimulus and now this becomes the conditioned response also, because at the end of the experiment the dog starts salivating because there is a sound of the bell and in anticipation of the food coming. Now, the bell is a signal that the food is appearing, and that is called that motivates the dog to salivate. This is called the conditioned response, which occurs through association that involves the manipulation of stimuli to influence the behavior. Next is called the operant conditioning, which is the process of controlling behavior by manipulating or operating on its consequence. Learning occurs through consequence of behavior. This experiment was done by B. F. Skinner in 1948, 53 and 1969. So, these are experiments done on like your animal pigeons and all these animals or rat. What happens in operant conditioning? The difference is that in classical conditioning, the conditioning is changes or manipulation is made in the your stimuli part, and in the operant conditioning what happens, you have to act to get the feedback. First you have to perform to get the reward. In the sense like when there is a pipe with the and there is a lever which you have to press, and then only the food is going to appear. So, this experiment was made on rats in which there was a pipe inside which there were food pellets and there was a lever. So, the rat actually had to press the lever in order to get the food pellets, which was the reward after the act. That is, first you have to work, first you have to act to press the lever, and then only the food is going to appear. So, that is the operant conditioning part, where it is the process of controlling behavior by manipulating or operating on its consequences. Like if you do not act, if you are not going to press the lever, the food, the reward is not going to appear. So, it occurs through consequences of behavior. So, the two groups of theories, classical and operant conditioning, differs in two important ways. First, control in operant conditioning is via manipulation of consequences. Second, operant conditioning calls for examining antecedents, behavior and consequences. In operant conditioning, if a behavior is to be repeated, the consequence must be manipulated. The basis for manipulating of the consequence is Thorndike's law of effect. That is, how do you manipulate the consequence? Is it depends on the laws of effect, which tells like if the outcome is if the result is a pleasurable outcome, is a pleasant outcome, it is likely to be repeated. While the behavior that results in an unfavorable, unpleasant outcome is not going to be repeated. Like if the rat goes and pressing the lever, but if no food pellets are going to appear, then that behavior of pressing the lever will not continue. But if after pressing the lever, the food pellet is going to appear, which is a rewarding consequence to the rat, then that behavior is going to be repeated. This depends on the law of effect as given by E. L. Thorndike, which tells the behavior that is followed by a pleasant consequence is going to be repeated, but the behavior which is not followed by a pleasant consequence is not going to be repeated. So, what happens, how these are used in organizational setup is, this is called organizational modification, OB mod techniques, which there are 4 strategies where what happens, it is the integration of the classical conditioning, reinforcement and extrinsic rewards which helps in changing the direction, level and persistence of individual towards the of the individual behavior, and 4 strategies include positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment and extinction. So, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement for avoidance of certain things, punishment and extinction, and we will try to see each of them separately. In positive reinforcement, what happens, there is providing a reward for a desired behavior. Negative reinforcement is removing an unpleasant consequence when the desired behavior occurs. Punishment is applying an undesirable condition to eliminate an undesirable behavior. Extinction is withholding reinforcement of a behavior to cause its cessation. So, positive reinforcement is while like you give a positive reward for some behavior that is the organization wants the employee to do. So, that is a positive reward. In negative reinforcement of what happens, sometimes you tell okay, you will be given this punishment, or you will be like face this unpleasant consequence if you are not doing certain things, and to avoid that thing, what will happen, the employee will start doing the desired behavior, and then what you do is remove that unpleasant consequence. In that case, this is called negative reinforcement. Punishment is where you give an undesirable consequence, unfavorable consequence to eliminate an undesirable behavior. So, when something is undesirable done by the employees, you try to punish that employee with an undesirable consequence, so that that behavior gets eliminated. And extinction is what you do, you try to withhold the reinforcement for certain point of time, so that that behavior it does not occur. This is taken from this part, extinction is taken from the classical conditioning part, where there is a total gap between there is a time difference between the conditioned and non-conditioned stimulus. Then what happens, that pairing does not occur, and it like get extinct. And also from operant conditioning, like if you perform a behavior and the reinforcement is appearing very late, then what happens, then the behavior ceases to occur. So, both ways you can take for extinction. So, different schedules of reinforcement are continuous reinforcement, where a desired behavior is reinforced each time it is demonstrated. Intermittent reinforcement is a desired behavior is reinforced often enough to make the behavior worth repeating, but not every time it is demonstrated. So, what you find the difference over here, in continuous reinforcement, every time you do a desired behavior, then you find a reinforcement for it. But in intermittent reinforcement, what happens, the desired behavior is reinforcement many number of times, which makes the behavior worth repeating, but it is not every time that it is demonstrated. In a fixed interval schedule, rewards are spaced at uniform time intervals. Rewards placed at at uniform time intervals. When we are talking of variable interval schedule, what happens? Rewards are initiated after a fixed or a constant number of reinforcement responses, and it is not spaced at uniform time. So, can you guess like what is the difference while we are talking of continuous reinforcement, intermittent reinforcement, fixed interval schedule and variable interval schedule? What is the differences that you get when you follow these 4 different schedules of reinforcement? Does it have any effect on the performance levels of the individuals in the organization? Difference in performance levels while you are following continuous reinforcement or intermittent reinforcement, or you are giving a fixed interval schedule or a variable interval schedule. Is there any difference in the performance pattern? Let us find out. When the reinforcement schedule is continuous in nature, what is the nature of reinforcement? Reward is given after each desired behavior. The effect on behavior is fast learning of new behavior, but rapid extinction. Fixed interval schedule is rewards given at a fixed time interval. Effect on behavior is average and irregular performance with rapid extinction. Average and irregular performance with rapid extinction. Variable interval schedule is rewards given at variable times. Effect on behavior is moderately high and stable performance with slow extinction. When we are talking of fixed ratio, that is rewards given at fixed amount of output. High and stable performance attained quickly, but also with rapid extinction. Variable ratio is rewards given at a variable amounts of output. Very high performance with slow extinction. Now, what happens if you see like when it is a continuous reinforcement schedule and also a fixed interval schedule or a fixed ratio schedule, it sets an expectancy for the individuals. Okay, the rewards are appearing after a certain point of time or after I do produce certain number of units, and what happens, these rewards are very like I know it will appear sort of, and it loses its strength, and what happens to some extent, it after a considerable point of time, because you know it is known to everybody like after this point of time this reward is going to appear, or after I produce certain number of units it is for sure that this reward is going to appear. It loses its attractiveness as the reinforcement, and the effect on behavior is like no more very pronounced, and it to certain cases it no longer acts as a very good motivator. But when it is a fixed interval schedule and a variable interval schedule or a variable, but when it is variable in nature, the either in ratio or in interval, what happens? I keep my performance level very high because you do not know when is the reward going to appear, when is the reward is going to appear, and it may be at variable times or in after a variable number of outputs. So, in both these cases what happens, like there is moderately high performance and what happens, there is slow extinction, means like the expectancy level is very high, and like I do not know when it is going to appear. So, I need to perform well because I have to be always motivated, so that I do not miss the reward, and in that case this it has a greater power of reinforcing, greater power of acting as a reinforcement when the schedule is a variable in nature. Reward has a greater reinforcing power, rather to tell it in a different way, when the schedule is a variable in nature, whether variable interval or the variable ratio, and also in continuance with it, the performance level is also very high. So, we will try to find out the strengths and weaknesses of different pay programs and rewards which are there. As far as variable pay is concerned, we see the strength that it is motivates for performance, it is cost effective, it clearly links organizational goals and individual goals. Weaknesses are like individuals do not always have control over factors that affect productivity. Earnings may vary from year to year, can cause unhealthy competition amongst employees. Team-based reward are when it encourages individuals to work together effectively. It promotes goal of team-based work. Sometimes what happens, the weakness are, it is very difficult to evaluate team performance, and if all the team members are paid equally, then equity problems could arise. So, there is a difference, like when you are talking of the two terms equity and equally. Equally is like all members, irrespective of their input to the team, are given equal rewards. When you are talking of equity, there is a comparison of the input and the output by a single person in comparison to his group members. So, equity problems could arise if all the members are paid equally. Skill based pay increases the skill level of employees, increases the flexibility of the workforce, can reduce the number of employees needed. Weakness could be employers may end up paying for unneeded skills. Employees may not be able to learn some skills and thus feel demotivated. So, these could be the weaknesses, in the sense some skills are no more required, and because it is a skill based pay and we just cannot reduce it in that way, employers may end up paying for unneeded skills, and employees sometimes like they are not able to learn certain other skills and thus they may feel motivated. demotivated. Content theories or need theories, as we may tell it, there are 2 to 3 broad theories, and the first that we will discuss over here is the hierarchy of need theory. This theory was stated by Abraham Maslow, and it was hypothesized that within every human being there exists a hierarchy of 5 needs. These 5 needs are physiological needs, safety needs, social need, esteem need, and self actualization needs. Maslow categorized these 5 needs into lower order needs and higher order needs. So, if we can see this is a like triangle, and at the lowest level is the physiological need. Next comes your safety needs. Third is the social need. Fourth is the esteem need, and at the top is the self actualization need. Now, physiological need is at the lowermost level of this pyramid, and it is the very basic need that every individual has, and these are to be met by the organization. And after that, physiological needs are the safety needs, and above that is the social need, and then esteem needs and self actualization. So, physiological needs and safety needs are called the lower order needs, and these are satisfied externally, and higher order needs are the needs that are satisfied internally, like within the person, like social needs, esteem needs and self actualization needs. Now, because according to this Maslow's theory, once the person's lower order needs are satisfied, then only that person can start thinking of higher order needs, can move towards higher order needs. It is very essential for the organization to take care of these 5 basic needs or the hierarchy which is there, so that it can motivate the person to think in a better way and contribute in a better way to the organization. This theory of Maslow has a number of criticism regarding the hierarchy of the needs, like the what Maslow stated is that a person can move to the higher order need only when the lower order needs are satisfied, has been questioned by many researchers, and different findings have also been found, like it depends on the nature of the person and the profession and the age group, etc., which denotes like whether this it is always true, like the lower order needs have to be satisfied and then only people can move to higher order needs, but this has faced a lot of criticism, and like researchers have been done to say that no, sometimes people voluntarily do not pay heed to the lower order needs, so that they can, but they concentrate more on the higher order needs. Theory X and theory Y, this is again what motivates an employee, and this theory was given by McGregor. Douglas McGregor concluded that managers' view of the nature of human being, it is guided by certain assumptions, and these assumptions are called theory X and theory Y. According to theory X, people inherently dislike work and whenever possible will attempt to avoid it. Since the employees dislike work, then what happened? They must be coerced, controlled or threatened with punishment to achieve the goals. Employees, what they love to do is not to take responsibilities or and they will seek formal direction, like they love to be guided, and workers place more important on security above all other factors associated with work, and will display little ambition in what they do. So, this theory proves as if people have to be punished, guided, told like you need to do this, you need to do this in this way, and this is how exactly you have to proceed. They need to be guided, and they love to do that. Theory Y tells employees can view work as being natural as rest or play, then average people can learn to accept and seek responsibility also. So, and the ability to make innovative decisions is widely dispersed, widely present in the population, and it is not only the management who can make innovative decisions, and people will exercise self direction and self control when they are committed to certain objectives. So, this theory Y gives more importance to the person as a holistic person who has his or her own choices, decision making, thing like, and like they love taking responsibilities and all these things, but theory X generally does not assume that. And when there is a difference in the management's assumption about human being, a manager guided by the notion of theory X will manage the employees in one way, and the person who is guided by theory Y will look at their employee in a different way and try to behave with them in different ways also. Motivation hygiene theory. In motivation hygiene theory, this is given by Herzberg. According to Herzberg, the factors leading to job satisfaction are different from factors leading to job dissatisfaction. The hygiene factors are factors which include like company policy, administration, interpersonal relation, working condition, etc., which are like external to the job. Motivators include factors like achievement, recognition, the work itself, and responsibility and advancement for growth. Now, these, if you can see, somewhere it talks of intrinsic motivation also, like it is not the only things present in the environment that can motivate you, but the nature of the job itself needs to be motivating and challenging enough, so that a person has a sense of recognition, achievement, and feeling of advancement and growth. So, these are important factors for hygiene factors and motivators. Another point what Herzberg mentioned is that because this is a separate continuum, so presence of hygiene factors does not mean like the person will be motivated or job or there will be job satisfaction, because it is taken to be a basic platform. The presence of hygiene factors are taken to be a basic platform where if these factors are not present, it may lead to job dissatisfaction, but if it present does not mean like there will be job satisfaction, but there is a platform from which job satisfaction can take off if the motivation factors are present in the job. ERG theory, it is proposed by Clayton Alderfer, which states that there are three groups of core needs: existence, relatedness, and growth. Existence group is concerned with providing a basic material existence requirements, means the things required for existence, that is physiological needs and safety needs. Relatedness is a it's like a desire where which we have for maintaining the important interpersonal relationships in the organization, also likewise in organization. Growth need is the group of intrinsic desire for personal development. So, contrast with the Maslow's theory is that Maslow's theory stated that the higher order needs can be satisfied if and only if the lower needs are satisfied, and at a time, at a single point of time, you cannot have the both needs acting on you. But the ERG theory tells more than one need may be operative at the same point of time, and if the gratification of the higher level need is not there, the desire to satisfy the lower level need increases. McClelland told that the needs can be learned, and he gave 3 needs which can be learned. First is the need for achievement. Need for achievement is reflected in a person where there is taking responsibility for solving problems, setting moderate achievement goals and taking calculated risk. Third is desiring performance feedback. These together needs, this reflects high need for achievement. Setting moderate achievement goals and taking calculated risks. So, it is like if I have a need for achievement, I love to see like I have rewards at the end of the activity done. And so, what I do is I set my goals very low, moderate goals, and what I do is I take calculated risks so that I always face a favorable outcome. Need for affiliation reflects desire for social interaction. Social relationships are valued more important than task performance, and need for power is need for obtaining and exercising power and authority. It is negative influence if manifested as dominance and submission, and positive if it reflects persuasive and inspirational behavior. So, we can understand like people differ individually in these 3 level of needs: need for achievement, need for affiliation, and need for power. Different people may have different like needs, either need for affiliation is strong or need for achievement is strong or the need for power is strong, and accordingly based on the different personality pattern. So, what happens is that it tells about like the intrinsic and extrinsic rewards, and it is shown that in the real world when extrinsic rewards are stopped, it usually means the individual is no longer a part of the organization, and very high level of intrinsic motivation levels are strongly resistant to detrimental impacts of extrinsic rewards, and on dull task extrinsic rewards appear to increase intrinsic motivation. So, what happens sometimes extrinsic rewards when given for a task to a person who is intrinsically motivated, and it reduces the strength, the effort, the level that you take in doing a particular task, and this theory, this relationship of extrinsic rewards and intrinsic rewards and motivation, this comes under the theory of like self determination and self concordance. These are the groups of theories which discusses the relationship of extrinsic rewards and intrinsic motivation. Task characteristics theories denote like characteristics of the job which are combined together to denote like which is the aspect of the job which motivates the employees, and there are three theories to it, like the requisite task attributes theories, job characteristics model, and social information processing model. Requisite task attribution theory tells about like there are different aspects of the job like variety, autonomy, responsibility, knowledge and skill, required social relationship and optional social interaction. These complexities give rise to defining a job which is more complex and challenging in nature or not, and employees will love to do job which are complex and challenging in nature. And it is that like different employees based on their own different backgrounds are going to like respond to the jobs in different ways. Job characteristics model is also it's a Hackman and Oldham model which tells about the different 5 core dimensions of the job and how it is going to affect the behavior. We will learn more about this when we are talking of job designs. We will discuss job characteristics model in details while we are talking of job design. And social information processing model is again when people take cues from the environment provided by others to know like which job is more important to them or not. So, these are the 3 requisite like your requisite task attribution theory, job characteristics model and social information processing will tell which job is like it depends on the task characteristics to define what is going to motivate the employees. We will move to the next discussion on like the process theories of motivation to know like how a person gets motivated in the next lecture. Thank you.